Yes. All rise, veuillez vous lever. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keegan Caswell. You may continue. You were about to play a video or something, or tape. Thank you.
I was requesting, with your leave, to play the last tape that I had.
Uchamege gotab kolenjin witugul oipchini tugetab Kass FM ni ko Joshua Arap Sang olenjino kimi komye agesome kerib kalyet eng witugul kalyet eng emetab Kenya ngotororit kalyet eng rani akoigeny ongetestai kerib kalyet.
Kigurenon Moses Rono en Kass FM News. Kisome kele kobit kalyet en emetab Kenya en nguni ak en kotugul.
Kigurenon Gilbert Arap Langat asome kele ongerib kalyet ongoyamei kalyetab kamuktaindet.
Ane kigurenon Geoffrey Lelmet asome biikab Kenya tugul kerib kalyet ak kerib emenyo nekiketech kenyisiek chechang.
Ane ni Winnie Ruto kisome kalyet biikchok, kisome kalyet en emenyo.
Ane kigurenon Kiplagat Kwambai kimi karam Nairobi mami ngala kisomok tugul biikchok chebo Kalenjin mula tugul omi mata angam kalya mula tugul omi sinete kerib amani nyeketech mu kenyisiek chang sikotestai emonenyo kimi komye.
Ane Max Sirma alen ngotunen kalyet eng emetab Kenya.
Jonas, in that tape, it will be observed that Mr. Sang, or rather under the leadership of Mr. Sang, all people at that moment who were working for Kass FM were mobilized to seek and plead for peace. And this is a pre-recorded tape that was played on 1st of January 2008. And the reason why it was pre-recorded is because there was a live ban in Kenya that live broadcast was not allowed to be done. And Jonas will see that Mr. Sang starts off the plea for peace and then is followed by all the others who are seeking that peace do prevail. At this moment, Jonas, I will request, as was indicated in the directions, for an opportunity to have my client say something before I conclude. Thank you.
How long will this take?
It should not take more than 7 minutes, Your Honors.
We may proceed then.
Thank you.
I beg your pardon, Your Honors. Before we continue with this, I don't recall that my learned friend notified me that the accused would be making statements at this time. Was this discussed in any of the status conferences? Perhaps I might have missed it.
Is that an objection from you then?
It is, Your Honors.
Mr. Caswell.
Your Honor, our recollection is that we were allocated 2 hours. How we would spend our 2 hours was up to us, and it included the window to have our clients speak. Your Honor, there was no indication that we needed to issue any notice to anybody. So that's how we intended to exercise that option.
Fair enough. You may proceed. Mr. Sang may make the 7-minute statement.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Mr. President, Your Honors, thank you so much for according me this opportunity. This is the man, Joshua Arap Sang, standing before this court today. In my entire life, I've never stood before any court because I am a law-abiding person. I've lived my life as a Christian with all the Christian values, and that is shown by where I've worked and where I started my work as a broadcaster. I've worked in 3 stations to date. The first station being a Christian station by the name Sayare. And this was my first station, where I hosted programs in 3 languages: Kalenjin, which came 1 hour daily, English, and Kiswahili. I went again to another station, Biblia Husema Broadcasting. Translated, the Bible says. I worked there for 2 years, and I also presented in 2 languages, Kalenjin and English, and Kiswahili. Kalenjin and Kiswahili. I used to have only 1 program on Saturday, speaking Kalenjin. 2005, Kass FM station started. And as always, every person would look for greener pastures. I got an opportunity to be among the pioneers in that station. And here I stand, that in the almost 1.5 or 2 years that Kass FM was on air, the prosecution has brought allegation of criminal intent upon me, things that I could not have done for the last 7 years in the other stations, but I think I could do in 2 years in Kass FM, just because Kass FM was a station targeting the Kalenjin. As a broadcaster, the language used was Kalenjin, and I had nothing to do with that. This was our job, and I'm supposed to reach a target prepared by the owner of the station. As Wendy was starting the station, I stood and I got the job. Professionally, did my job, knowing the code of ethics for broadcasting or journalism, and abided by it. But here, there's a notion painted that Arab Sang that was on air on Kass FM was in a network. And the main aim of the network is to evict a section of Kenyans in the Rift Valley. Kass FM broadcast internationally. It's online. Even here in Netherlands, when I'm in my room, I listen to Kass FM. So, for the prosecution to get a section of witnesses from a party, bring them before the court, or they will bring them, on the notion that Arab Sang was inciting, instructing, coordinating, directing attacks on a section of the Kenyan population, disturbs me, kills my broadcasting life, because I believe I was born a broadcaster. When I was young, I used to listen to radio, BBC, and many local radio stations in Kenya, with the urge and need to be a broadcaster one day. And thank God I became one, and I'm still one. But here I stand, the prosecution bringing allegations that want to cut short my broadcasting life
the life that I enjoy on microphone, educating, entertaining, informing people regardless of their tribes. It's disturbing. And more so, Kass FM is one of the many vernacular stations in Kenya. And all the other stations, their targets are different tribes. We have stations targeting the Kikuyus, the Luos, the Luyas, and Kass FM is not the only Kalenjin station in Kenya. But what to say, here I am. And I thank God that my innocence has given me enough courage to come this far. My God, my Creator, has also given me that courage and the defense that I have. And I know one day, if this court will stand by justice, I'll be vindicated. I believe the judges before this court will hear and determine all this one day and find this innocent journalist and will free the innocent journalist. I want to say that I am one person who has stood in the community and have been given different opportunities to serve, especially in the church, because that's where I belong. Currently, I am the patron of my local church, which we are building. I am, or in my life, I've been a praise and worship leader in our church, Eldoret, AIC Fellowship. I'm currently the patron of a choir of a church. If really this Arab song is a criminal, could these people from the church and the setting in the Bible look upon me and give me an opportunity to serve in different departments in the church? The answer is definitely no. The prosecution has the wrong person here. And one day, the world, Kenya, and everyone will know the truth. They say I was instructing, coordinating, and directing attacks in Eldoret. Mr. President, Your Honors, I was in Nairobi, and this is where Kass is located. My family, my young family, was in Eldoret by then. My wife, my 3-year child, my 5-month-old child were in Eldoret. And here, a foolish Arab sang, according to the prosecution, directing attacks on Kikuyus, Kisis, and Kambas, as they say, at the heart of Eldoret, where my wife is, and more so, living in a Kikuyu house. Would I be that so silly, so stupid, not to be concerned about my family? Telling people to attack the other tribes while my own are in Kikuyu house, inside the battlefield, as they say, Eldoret? I'm a caring father and husband. I couldn't do that. Sorry, I couldn't do that. I hosted different people at Kass, including the current sitting president, who by then was in the other party, PNU, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. I hosted my co-accused, who is currently the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto. I hosted people across the Kenyan diverse cultures. Kass was not for Kalenjin, listened by Kalenjin. We have intermarried. My own first cousin is married to a Kikuyu. And I'm sorry for her. The husband died the other day in Zuba. But they have kids. Would I have chased them for my sister to miss her husband? Would I have married her? Don't want to speak much today, but I hosted everyone, and that will be shown by my defense team. And I remember even towards the election, when the listeners were on me, saying I have hosted too much PNU members than the ODM. And you listen from my recording what I told them. They were accusing me of hosting PNU members. And why there were so many is because they had bought airtime. ODM had bought airtime. I was not hosting them. The program was not mine. It was a sponsored program. During campaigns, all media houses can tell you that is the time to get revenue, to get, I could say it's a prime time to get money because politicians, parties buy airtime to sell their policies. So I was not bringing ODM to sell policies the Kalenjin, because not only the Kalenjin votes would have put them in power. In Kenya, you need everyone's vote. It counts. So,
Mr. Sang, I don't mean to interrupt you, but your counsel said you would be speaking for about 7 minutes, and I want to remind you that time is up.
Okay.
So
Give me two.
When would you wrap up?
2 minutes. Okay. This case, today as I stand, a jobless man, I resigned from CAS because this is where the prosecution says I was doing my criminal things, as they say. Because I couldn't stand anymore. I couldn't do my program, the one I love. I resigned. And to date, I'm not seeking for any job because I want to deal with this animal. These allegations of crime against humanity. I am not, and I will never be, a criminal in my life. If surely this shortest journalist in Kenya, as I stand here, the government of Kenya by then, stated very well by the mainstream media, one time raided their premises on suspicion that they were preparing to publish a material that was a threat to national security. Do you think that government, with all functional system, would have stood Arab Sang, being on air, as the prosecution says, on 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of January 2008, instructing, directing, and coordinating attacks? Would the government have waited for me while they could have when they raided a station on suspicion? And here, there's somebody saying it on there. 4 days, according to them. The government just was so lenient to me, or I was too short to be noticed by law. I want to say I'm a law-abiding citizen, and if the prosecution could have investigated and not allowed itself to be misled, they would not today have the wrong person in this court. God bless.
Thank you very much. Mr. Katwal?
In conclusion, Your Honors, we insist on the innocence of Mr. Sang, and we insist on the position we've just indicated, that whereas there is abundant and infinite volume of evidence showing that, in fact, he is neither warmonger nor did he participate in any way in the violence, whereas that material is abundant, there is not the least iota of any evidence incriminating him, either in terms of the prosecution having disclosed it or in terms of its existence. And the reason why we are confident of non-existence of anything incriminating him is because he didn't commit any wrong. We insist that it will be impossible for the prosecution to make their case against our client, against my client, leave alone making the case beyond reasonable doubt. It is our view that this case will eventually reflect the three categories of victims. The first victim being, the first set of victims being the victims of post-election violence. The second victim being Mr. Sang, who is a victim of the weight and the might of the prosecutor. And the third victim being the community that the prosecutor has, in the abundance of his judgment or lack of it, found fit to bring here for trial. Your Honors, in the opening address by the prosecutor yesterday, she stated that in support and to demonstrate the guilt of my client and that of the first accused, they proposed to call a sum of 22 witnesses. In the course of the same submissions, they reflected the fact that some of the witnesses may have abandoned their interest to come and testify in this case. It is also a fact that they had given us indication that they proposed to call initially 42 witnesses. It is our view, much as we do not want to speculate or to go into the details of the issue, it is our submission, and very strongly so, that whichever witnesses may have stepped aside is on account of no other reason other than the fact that the weight of evidence does not support what they initially proposed to say. And secondly, that their conscience must have come to weigh on them and informed their decision not to come and testify. Further, we would like to say that we remain in state of an indication that there are 42 witnesses. And if, as the prosecutor said yesterday, the number has reduced to 22, it is only fair that we should know who they are so that we do not spend any more of our resources on people who are not coming to testify. And so we would like to know who those people are. Your Honor, the sum of what I have said and the sum of what my client has said and what we have already presented to the court by way of the audio tapes shows the contrary of what the prosecutor said. The prosecutor said, and we must say recklessly, that Mr. Sang is the voice of violence. It is our position that, in fact, Mr. Sang comes out as a voice of peace, as a voice of reason, as a voice of balance. And we would invite the prosecutor, in view of all the material that there is, including what we have played and what more we have in stock, to consider withdrawing the charges against Mr. Sang. It is very clear, in closing, that this case brought against Mr. Sang is one big mistake. On all those grounds, Your Honors, we propose, if the prosecutor insists on proceeding with this case, to show that, in fact, Mr. Sang is innocent and that it is an insult to the intentions of the Rome Statute to have presented him to this trial. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katwa. But it is palm oil, you know. I mean, your reference to the Achebe quote. It is a proverb in its own right about how you ate your roast yam. It works better if you dipped it in palm oil and in palm wine.
Yes, I'm more pleased that the President is aware of that. Thank you.
There was the outstanding matter yesterday about the prosecutors' need to reply principal.
Your Honours, there are just two matters which I would like to reply to with respect to Mr. Khan's address yesterday. One, and both of them are in the nature of misrepresentations, which I might have stood up and objected to at the time, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow of my learned friend's presentation, so I thought it would be better to address them afterwards. The one relates to the mischaracterization of the prosecution's case.
Your Honour, sorry.
I'm just outlining the two, and my learned friend will be given an opportunity.
1 second. At this point, Mr. Khan, we are taking submissions on whether or not to grant the prosecutor reply. So he's outlining what he wants to reply to.
One relates to the mischaracterization of the prosecution's case that Mr. Ruto was motivated by ethnic hatred. Now, my learned friend repeated that at least 3 times, and I wish to address that issue because that's not our case. The second issue relates to my learned friend's repeated references to the videos that he played and the video clips as evidence. That is another issue I'd like to have an opportunity to address because the prosecution's submission is not evidence. In addition to that, there are 3 matters that arose this morning from my learned friend for Mr. Sang, which I would also seek leave to respond to. The first is his mischaracterization of the prosecution's case as an indictment of the Kalenjin people and the Kalenjin traditions. Again, inaccurate. The second relates to various tapes and extracts of tapes that he's played. And the third, which he's in fact invited the prosecution response on, and that's related to, again, his misstatement of the prosecution's opening address that we intend to call only 22 witnesses, because that's not what we said. And on those discrete matters, I imagine I would need less than 10 minutes for all of it, and this is in response to a full 4 hours of submissions from my learned friends, and only on issues where, in the prosecution submit, they were inaccurate. Thank you, Your Honours.
One question for clarification. You said arising from Mr. King Katwa's opening statement, you needed to respond something about tapes. You didn't say.
Oh, indeed. I beg your pardon, Your Honours. The simple issue is that we are criticized.
Without the submissions, you don't need to make the
Yes.
submissions. Just a little more on what is it about the tapes.
The objection is, or the complaint is, that he's played selective extracts of tapes, and he's stated confidently that the transcripts and the recordings will demonstrate his client's innocence. What we wish to say is something about the disclosure of the full and original tapes. That is all.
Fair enough. I'll hear from Mr. Khan.
Your Honour, I think all of us in this room have done trials before. It's unheralded for the prosecution to seek a second opening speech under the guise of clarifications. Of course there's fundamental disputes because we are here when we say we shouldn't be. We are here when we say there's a travesty of justice underway. And Your Honour, it's quite right that there is absolute disagreement between the two sides. But Your Honours, as far as the video clips are concerned, well, let me start with the first issue. The issue of time is irrelevant. The prosecution had the same time that was given to me. We had 2 hours for the prosecution, 2 hours for the defence of Mr. Ruto, 2 hours for the defence of Mr. Sang, and it was allowed, clearly allowed, prosecution didn't object to it, that the defence amongst themselves could agree the most economical way of using that time up so that there was, to avoid unnecessary overlap. I liaised with my learned friend, Mr. Katwa Keegan. We did precisely that, and we were all, both of us, within the hours that were allocated without objection to the defence. Your Honours, there's no argument that the prosecution can put forward that would negate the reality that they played no evidence, have no tapes and no videos. The fact now they seek to squirm out of the embarrassing situation.
Mr. Khan, let me stop you right there. taking submissions now on the procedural matter of whether or not the prosecutor may respond, or rather reply. We wouldn't want you to start making submissions that have not yet been made in substance.
Your Honor,
just on the procedural matter.
Your Honor, there's no right of an opening, a second opening. The prosecution, as I alluded to yesterday, if they do not decide to drop this case and insist on going forward, will have the course of the whole of the prosecution case to disprove what we have stated in our opening. As far as the arguments about the videotapes, we all accept. There be no ambiguity. We stated in the hearing, the status conference before the opening, that the materials that the parties put forward, both for the prosecution and for the defence, does not have the status of evidence in proceedings, but it is evidence that we will rely upon in the course of proceedings to show how fabricated and nonsensical are the prosecution's contentions that are in reality repugnant to any sense of justice.
Mr. Kanoke, I think I've got your point. Your argument is that there is no right of reply. Thank you very much. Now, the Chamber's ruling on it is this. Yes, in the guiding documents of the court, there is no explicit guidance to be had. But we're not at all in a wilderness on this point. It is accepted in the tradition part of serial litigation that the principle is a party makes submissions, a responding party responds, and the first party that spoke may exercise a right of reply on any new matters arising from what the responding party had said. And if one looks at Regulation 24 of the court's regulations on written submissions, it does deal with written submissions, I know, but the principle of it is still indicated there. So it's a matter of seeking leave from the chamber as to whether there's any new matter arising upon which a right, or rather privilege of reply may be exercised. In regard of that being said, it is our view that the chamber may grant leave for reply, but not on everything. As the matter has been outlined, we will grant prosecution limited time to respond to limited issues. They will not include evidence. So the reference to evidence we will not receive reply on. The reference to tape, the same issue, we will not receive any reply on that. But it will be fair to correct any mischaracterization of the case in terms of what the case is about and what the case is not about. It also assists the defense, in my view, in knowing the parameters or the contours of the case as it were. So the prosecutor, we give you 5 minutes only to respond to matters of mischaracterization.
Thank you, Your Honours. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for my learned friend's clarification that, of course, these videos are not evidence, because that was what was described. And
before you say proceed, on that note, I think I should actually make it clear on the record, yes, it was the understanding in the matters preceding the opening statements or the commencement of the case that nothing used as video or audio or visual aid in opening statements should be understood to be evidence in the case. Matters of litigation of the admissibility of such material will be dealt with at an appropriate time in the course of the proceedings. Thank you.
And although this wasn't dealt with yesterday at the opening, at the status conference on Monday, I beg your pardon, because we weren't given notice, I presume the same will apply to the unsworn statement of Mr. Sang, that that will not be evidence until it's repeated under oath.
Mr. Steinberg, proceed with your comment.
Thank you, Your Honours. My learned friend for Mr. Ruto mentioned on at least 3 occasions throughout his opening address that the prosecution were alleging that his client hates Kikuyu. This man who hates Kikuyu, a man who's driven by ethnic hatred, are 2 of the quotes that I've selected. But that is not the prosecution case, Your Honours. We do not say that the accused was driven by any endemic or inherent enmity towards the Kikuyu people. We say that he was driven, yes, by a thirst for power, for a quest for power, and that he exploited existing tensions between the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin because the Kikuyu were, for the most part, supporters of his opponents, the PNU, and it suited him politically. So the fact that his sisters may be married to Kikuyu, or that he may have had Kikuyu running partners in subsequent previous elections.
Mr. I must stop you on that. This is a matter you can litigate in the course of the case.
As the court pleases, Your Honours. Then, since we've dealt with the lack of evidence of the video, let me move on to Mr. Sang. Counsel for Mr. Sang says that the prosecution's case is about an indictment of the Kalenjin people and the Kalenjin tradition. Again, that is manifestly not our case. We say that Mr. Ruto and his network, including elders in the Kalenjin tradition, have hijacked, in the Kalenjin ethnic group, hijacked those traditions, hijacked those oathing and circumcision ceremonies, venerable ceremonies, in order to advance their own political ends. Then, on the issue of the witnesses, what I said was, in my opening address, the prosecution will present up to 22 victims and witnesses, common Kenyan people, who will describe the attacks on each of these locations. I was referring to witnesses, so-called crime-based witnesses, who will testify as to actual events. I was not saying that the prosecution was now limiting its witness list to 22 people. So I hope that clarifies that misunderstanding. And I think I've exhausted the opportunity you've given me. Thank you, Your Honours.
Thank you very much. Moving forward now, before I move forward, Ms. Indireto is here. There was, during your submission yesterday, I didn't want to again interrupt, so I came back to it yesterday. But on the matter of investigation of witness interference, perhaps you should know that it is not this chamber's responsibility to either investigate witness interference or even, it's not clear yet that chamber will try any such allegations as a procedure in the court that involves investigation and prosecution of Article 70 offenses, and we are looking at the matter going through the usual manner of bringing cases before the court. So when you, in your remarks, we just didn't want you to create an impression in the victim's mind that it is this chamber that will investigate witness interference and prosecute them. Just to clarify that little matter. Moving forward then, prosecution, I take it you don't have any witness to present until?
Indeed, Your Honours, the situation remains as I described on Monday. The first witness is en route. In fact, she should be arriving in The Hague, if not today, then tomorrow. And we do anticipate that unless something goes drastically wrong, we will be in a position to continue on Tuesday, I beg your pardon.
On Tuesday,
Yes.
Monday being
a public holiday.
It's a shame, really, because we were hoping to proceed today, but that's the reality we have. On that note, we will adjourn. I see Mr. Khan rising.
Yes, Your Honour. I think there's been previous orders of the court regarding the defence entitlement to have at least the next 10 witnesses in order. Because the first 3 witnesses have withdrawn, we don't know who are going to come, who's going to be the 4th witness. And I would ask that an order be given that the prosecution send us a revised list of the next 10 witnesses starting from next Tuesday, hopefully by the end of today, because they should know. And VWU, no doubt, would know who those witnesses are. And that way we can prepare ourselves internally. And that would be very helpful.
Mrs. Steinberg.
We don't know, sorry, I apologise. We don't know actually who is the second witness. Is it 464 or is it 326? And again, so we can manage our allocation of work properly and efficiently, I'd ask that the prosecution be required to tell us who is their second witness as soon as possible. I'm grateful, Your Honour.
Mrs. Steinberg, do you have any difficulty with the proposal?
That is an eminently fair request, and we'll be happy to provide Mr. Khan with that. Just for the record, we intend to follow as much as possible the existing witness list. The second witness, because he is European-based, we would prefer to call as many of the Kenyan witnesses as we can and get them out the way isn't perhaps the right word, but to get the evidence on record as swiftly as possible. And witness 464 can come at short notice. But we will provide a list by the end of the day to my learned friends.
By the end of today?
Indeed.
Fair enough. That settles the matter then, Mr. Khan.
I'm grateful to my friend and Your Honours.
In the absence of any other matters rising, we will adjourn and reconvene on Tuesday at 9:30.
All rise, veuillez vous lever.